to the consideration of the bill H.R. 6816 for amendment. The bill was circulated in advance and printed copies are available. The clerk shall designate the bill.
H.R. 6816, a bill to prohibit the availability of federal education funds for elementary and secondary schools that receive direct or indirect support from the government of the People's Republic of China.
Without objection, the bill will be considered as read and open for amendment at any point, and any amendment offered shall be considered as read. Does anyone seek to be recognized? Mr. Moran, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
Madam Chair, I have an amendment at the desk titled H6816_ANS.
The clerk shall designate the amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 6816 offered by Mr. Moran of Texas. Identifier H6816_ANS.
Without objection, the amendment shall be considered original text for purposes of further amendment. The amendment nature of a substitute has already been distributed. I now recognize Congressman Moran for 5 minutes to explain the amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Thank you, Chairwoman Fox. Madam Chairwoman, I am offering an amendment in the nature of a substitute for H.R. 6816, the Promoting Responsible Oversight to Eliminate Communist Teachings for Our Kids Act, or the Protect Our Kids Act. H.R. 6816 will prohibit federal funding for any K-12 school that hosts a Confucius classroom or receives financial support from related entities. In past years, we've seen a rise in CCP Confucius institutes on college campuses across this company. Disguised as institutes that teach Chinese language and culture, these CCP-funded institutes spewed propaganda to college students. Now the CCP has attempted to expand its reach into the classrooms of our children. Confucius classrooms, which are similar to Confucius institutes, are a direct threat to our national security and have the potential to compromise both our educational systems and military capabilities. Between 2008 and 2017, Confucius classrooms increased to nearly 1,000 worldwide, including 500 within American schools. This statistic alone reveals the desire of China to infiltrate our classrooms and influence our kids. Confucius classrooms hinder academic integrity by requiring teachers to omit certain parts of Chinese history that are embarrassing to them, such as history about Tibet and Taiwan and Tiananmen Square. By prohibiting federal funding to schools that host Confucius classrooms or receive financial support from CCP-affiliated entities, the Protect Our Kids Act ensures that our children receive an unbiased education focused on American values and free from the undue influence of the CCP. It is crucial that we pass this legislation to protect our kids from external manipulation and to preserve the integrity of our educational institutions. Our children's schools should be places of learning and growth, free from foreign propaganda, especially foreign entities that seek to suppress truth and rewrite history. The Chinese Communist Party's involvement in our educational system poses a dangerous long-term threat to our values and our national security. The CCP seeks to teach our children biased, unprincipled, and damaging curriculum veiled under the guise of, quote, cultural studies and promoted only because it comes with money for the school districts. As a father of four, I know just how critical it is that our children receive a quality education in a supportive, balanced, and truthful environment. I firmly believe this legislation will safeguard the future of students across the country. In a day and age when young minds can easily be manipulated, the Protect Our Kids Act will immediately address the need to safeguard our children from targeted CCP propaganda and make certain that they are protected from foreign educational interference. We must ensure our children can learn in an environment that instills a sense of duty, self-discipline, and integrity that aligns with our nation's values and promotes success in and out of the classroom, and importantly, again, is rooted in truth. Defending our precious children is a top priority for us in Congress, and now is the time to protect our students and the future of our nation. I urge my colleagues to support the Protect Our Kids Act. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Is there any member? Ms. Bonamici, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to strike the last word and speak in opposition to H.R. 6816 and the amendment in the nature of the substitute.
You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Elementary and secondary schools across the nation have been working hard to eliminate gaps left by the pandemic and support student learning. And we should be considering bills that provide children and educators with the tools they need to learn and safely and teach safely in our schools. But instead, this bill fuels culture wars and fixates on problems that do not exist. The Protect Our Kids Act attempts to put a full body cast on a paper cut. It's an overly burdensome requirement and imposes ambiguous requirements with harsh penalties. The majority has failed to provide data and evidence that proves that H.R. 6816 is necessary. My Democratic colleagues and I remain committed to ensuring elementary and secondary schools have resources to safeguard classrooms from undue foreign influence. This bill is a solution in search of a problem. There's no independently verified evidence that the Chinese government is infiltrating our elementary and secondary schools. In fact, the number of Confucius classrooms still active in the United States has decreased significantly and appears to be no more than 16. As of 2023, 111 of them closed, and according to a GAO report in the last fall, the headline is "Nearly all U.S. Confucius Institutes Closed." So I don't know why we're spending time doing this today. And interestingly, when I was in the state legislature, the biggest proponent of Confucius Institutes and Mandarin programs was a Republican. So this bill is named Protect Our Kids Act. And I want to point out that according to Everytown for Gun Safety, there have been 107 instances of gunfire on school grounds to date just in 2024, resulting in 29 deaths. Guns are a much bigger threat to American school children than Chinese language programs and cultural exchange. Yet the majority remains unwilling to address the issue of firearms in our schools or gun violence and the need to prevent it. Also, we must be careful and not take action that could be perceived as targeting Chinese-affiliated programs and individuals, something that this bill does not take care of. We've seen the result of racial profiling in higher education, including a case in which an MIT faculty member was wrongfully accused, seriously damaging his career. This sort of targeting can easily lead to harmful consequences rooted in xenophobia for innocent faculty members. Anti-Asian hate has no place in our elementary and secondary schools, in higher institutes of higher education, or in our country. We must fight against unwarranted panic and suspicion among school personnel, parents, and communities that result in increased discrimination against students and educators of Asian descent. Since the start of the COVID pandemic, Stop AAPI Hate has received notice of more than 12,000 incidents of hate driven by anti-Asian scapegoating. The work that we do here should fight against such act rather than potentially adding fuel to the fire. Our schools are not safer when we discriminate. H.R. 6816 is a misuse of the committee's time, and I urge my colleagues to oppose this bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Does any other member wish to speak on the amendment in the nature of a substitute?